Hello guys and welcome back to my house in Belgium. I am interrupting the Southeast Asia vlogs just for a little bit because it is the last day of the year. And what a year it has been. I have visited 18 countries in the past year, which is more than I've ever visited just in 1 year. It's been a lot. From 4 months crossing Central America from Panama to Mexico to exploring more of Southeast Asia and Europe. It is a year that deserves to be looked back on, and I will be sharing my travel awards of 2023 with you guys, from the country that I felt the most uncomfortable in to my new favorite place on earth. Let's get into it. Let's start with places I would not necessarily go back to. Honduras is a country that unfortunately right now isn't the safest, or I wouldn't really take the risk exploring more of it because a lot of the other countries in Central America have quite the same to offer. I did my advanced open water certificate for diving there on the island of Utila, and I must say I enjoyed diving on Koh Tao in Thailand a lot more. I wouldn't necessarily go back to Honduras anytime soon. Same goes for Vientiane, which is the capital of Laos. There just isn't much going on there. However, when it comes to the underdogs that I visited, that I loved so much more than I would have ever expected, Laos is definitely the number one. I did not expect to love Laos as much as I did, from Luang Prabang, which has turned into one of my favorite cities in the world, to Vang Vieng, which was absolutely stunning. Laos has definitely become one of the countries that surprised me the most. Panama and El Salvador as well. Both countries aren't really talked about that much, at least not from what I experienced. Panama, I had no idea going into it how amazing it would be, from the Caribbean islands to the Pacific coast, and definitely up north also with the wildlife and the cloud forest. It has honestly blown me away. I spent 3 weeks there, and I definitely spent a lot of the highlights of my year in Panama. Same goes for El Salvador. El Salvador had a very bad reputation in the past, but that is all over now, and it is one of the best countries you can visit in Central America. I had the best time with the best people, and I highly recommend putting it on your bucket list. When it comes to underdog places, I would say Kalavrita in the Peloponnese in Greece. That was such an authentic Greek place. It is in the mountains. It is not like anything you would expect of Greece. And I also hadn't really heard about it, but there is a huge UNESCO Global Geopark that is so worth visiting by train. We stayed in one of the most beautiful accommodations, and it is also a ski resort, so you can even go visit it in the winter time. Some of the strangest things that I have done in the past year are definitely going on a 2-day slow boat from Thailand to Laos, and that was 2 days on a boat just along the Mekong River. It was definitely something that not many people do on a trip, but it was a good experience. It was very beautiful. I also looked into a active volcano. I looked down the crater to the magma in Nicaragua, and this is definitely, one of the craziest, maybe most dangerous things I've ever done. I also did the ATM cave tour in Belize, which is something that not many people have ever heard of. To be standing in front of someone who was sacrificed against their will was pretty eerie, but also, fascinating. The whole thing was something so unique that you cannot do anywhere else in the world, and so few people know about it. The most uncomfortable things I've done in the past year have definitely been the duck stop in Vietnam, which that video is still coming up, so I won't go into detail. Then also the iguana sanctuary in Belize. I was so uncomfortable around these animals. Like, I do not mind them in general when they are at a distance, but being so close, touching them, and even like being put a little one on my head, it was, no, I just do not do well with reptiles. I do not. And the country that I felt the most uncomfortable in, unfortunately, has been Nicaragua, because the catcalling is so intense and aggressive and constant when you are in the cities of Granada and León. And I'm used to quite a bit of catcalling, and usually I see it as a compliment, but this was just out of line. My favorite activities, my most bucket list moments of the past year have definitely been the Northern Lights. At the start of the year has been some of the best Northern Lights I've seen. It was my 3rd season already in Lapland. I am almost leaving for my 3rd, and when you are watching this, I am in Lapland again. The San Blas Islands in Panama were definitely like at the top of things that I have done in the past year, because It is like all these tiny islands. When you are on an island, you can see the end of the island. No matter where you look, all there is palm trees. The local people have their huts set up on the islands. And the water is so clear and beautiful. Like, if you ever get the chance to go to the San Blas Islands, do it. Also near Bocas del Toro in Panama, more Caribbean islands, you have Cayo Zapatillos, and that was also an amazing day, like so much better than I expected. We saw so much wildlife in one day, much more than I even expected. I even went snorkeling with the nurse sharks there. The volcano boarding in Nicaragua was one of the best days I've had in the past year. The paramotor in Vang Vieng in Laos, as you will have seen by now, brought me to tears because it was so incredible. It was one of the best things I've done this year as well. Also the sunrise excursion in Tikal, watching the sunrise over these Mayan ruins and then having the little coatis, the baby coatis, just play right there. An experience that I expected from Calakmul, which I didn't get, but we'll get into that in a bit. Even though I did start out the day very pissed off. But yeah, you can see all of that in the separate video I made. I love a snorkel trip, and I went on a snorkel trip on Koh Chang, which is one of the islands of Thailand, but it is close to Cambodia. So it is an island that is not frequented that much, at least not by the international tourists, and I loved it. It was the best day. The snorkeling was incredible, and yeah, I just love a day out on a boat. Same goes for the Halong Bay excursion. I believe that video is also still coming up. So definitely subscribe if you do not want to miss it. But by far the best boat trips were in Belize. On Key Calker, I did 2 snorkel trips 2 days in a row because I loved the first one so much. You go swimming with sharks, turtles, rays. It was the best thing I have ever done, honestly. And the second day, we had dolphins along the boat. We swam with a manatee. Just all of Key Calker is my favorite place in the whole wide world because everyone gathers at the same place for sunset every single evening. There's little seahorses along the pier. There are stingrays just coming up to the beach. The wildlife there in the ocean is just unmatched. The wildlife on land was definitely the best in Costa Rica. With the sloths, we saw an armadillo. Definitely on the night walking tour in Monteverde, we saw the biggest amount of animals, even some snakes, which I did have a little cry about in silence, but it was okay. Like, it was worth it for all the other animals that we saw. But the most underwhelming activities, which are very highly rated usually, to me they didn't live up to the expectations. One of them is the Ha Giang Loop in Vietnam. Yes, the landscapes are beautiful. Was it one of the best experiences of my life? No, it was very up and down, very much a roller coaster of a journey, and although it was beautiful, I kind of still expected more. Same goes for the Acatenango volcano in Guatemala. Did not really live up to like that expectation that I had of it. Costa Rica, aside from the wildlife, also didn't impress me much. I was just missing a lot, but I'll get into that a bit later on. Calakmul, like I said, when I was talking about Tikal, Tikal was the experience that I expected for Calakmul. The country that was the most tedious to travel was by far Guatemala. The bus journeys were so long because you go through the mountains and it's such a long, windy road to get somewhere. I was so fed up just in general of Central America, of all the traveling. All your time you pretty much lose during the day. It felt like I spent 1 in every 3 days, just an entire day in transportation. It was so tedious, but especially in Guatemala. That being said, the easiest country to travel long distance or for an extended amount of time was by far Vietnam. The buses in Vietnam are the most luxurious buses you could ever think of. They have beds in them. They are quite small. I'm quite short, so I'm not fazed by it. But still, I would love to have this kind of transportation everywhere in the world, especially Europe. Imagine being able to travel around Europe that way. It would be absolutely genius. The best waterfalls I definitely saw in Laos, the Quang waterfall, and then also in El Salvador. The 10 waterfalls tour is one of the best tours I've ever done, and honestly some of the best waterfalls ever. And you get such a great experience climbing through the waterfalls, swimming in them. It was so good. Costa Rica, unreal waterfalls. but so expensive. The El Tigre waterfalls are a collection of hanging bridges and waterfalls that you kind of hike along, and it cost $70. It was a great day, but really expensive. Same goes for the La Fortuna waterfall, which looks like a scene from Jurassic Park. It's phenomenal, but it costs $18, which for European standards is okay, but for just one waterfall in Central America, it's expensive. Another banger when it comes to waterfalls is Semuc Champey in Guatemala. It is such a unique landscape, and it was a great day as well, with like going into the caves and everything. Let's talk about the best beaches I've been to. Now, I would put Bacalar into this category, even though technically it's a lagoon, it's not really beaches, but still you can swim, it doesn't sting your eyes as much. Yeah, you can go sailing on the lagoon, so to me, it kind of counts like beaches, okay? Then all the Caribbean islands I've been to, especially the ones I talked about in Panama, were stunning, but also Belize. Oh my god, Belize, yeah. I just cannot shut up about Belize, but it's true. And I also went back to Isla Holbox. This is pretty close to Cancun in Mexico. This was already my second time going to the place because the first time I got in an accident and I did not get to enjoy it at all. This time around, I absolutely loved it. I wish I could have spent more time there, and it was definitely a good way to end my Central America trip. In Asia, obviously Halong Bay, as I said. I just love the karst mountains, the karst islands. As well in Thailand. Thailand has some of the most amazing islands and beaches. Honestly, every single one you pick will be a guaranteed success. And of course, I also went to the Ionian Islands of Greece, Kefalonia and Lefkada, and the beaches there are some of the bluest water, also the most beautiful coastal towns and coastal roads, 100% Ionian Islands. I hope to be going back for an extended period of time this summer. We'll have to see. At the start of January, they will let me know if I get my dream summer job or not. So everyone, cross your fingers, burn the candles, because this would be epic. But anyway, that's for later. The best walking tours that I have been on in the past year were one in Leon in Nicaragua and one in Hoi An in Vietnam. Both were so in-depth. The one in Leon asked for like a small amount of money to be all put together so that we could try lots of different things on the local market and get to know the prices of things on a local market. This was so genius. The one in Hoi An took us around lots of the ancient or historical monuments in the city and even a theater show. It took hours, like so incredible. You all know that food is super important to me. So let's talk about which countries have the best food and what has been the best food that I've tried in the past year. It's no secret that I love Mexican food. Mexico is probably like my all-time favorite country in the world. It is my second home pretty much. So Mexican food stays number one. Then it is followed by Thailand. Going to Thailand, I did not realize how similar it was to Mexico food-wise. They love spice, they love street food, and I love all of that as well. Thailand has some of the best night markets and food markets. I also went on food tours in Bangkok, and on these tours I tried some of the best street food I have had in my entire life. Of course, Vietnam is also known for its gastronomy. I think back to salt coffee every single day. I've even dreamt about it recently. I love a salt coffee. Banh mi, I had one probably every single day that I was there as a lunch, or even breakfast, or even as a late night snack. Anything I had there with peanut sauce, I absolutely loved, like the banzeo, but also this one meal will be like stuck in my brain forever. You know those meals that you have once in your life and you know you will never have them again, but they were some of your favorite food ever. That's this meal right here. This was in Dalat, if you're ever going to Dalat. And from Central America, I absolutely loved rice and beans. Give it to me every day. I don't mind, will not get sick of it, especially with coconut curry shrimp. I have learned quite a lot of new skills over the past year. I did learn to drive a scooter just in December of 2022, but during 2023 I really got to gain more experience. I spent a lot of time on the scooter in Nicaragua, El Salvador, also in Asia again. So yeah, definitely scooter riding I've gained a lot of experience in. I have done so many workshops as well on my trip, so I've learned how to weave. I have made my own jewelry as well, which was so much fun, and I get so many compliments on the necklace. I have done quite a lot of cooking workshops as well. So I did one in Laos, which was probably my favorite because it was very technical. And I've also done one in Vietnam, which was super delicious. I also made a lantern in Vietnam, which I have hanging right in front of me right now. I also did my advanced open water certificate for scuba diving. So for the first time in my life, I did a night dive and I went deep diving. Also in the Great Blue Hole in Belize, which is just such a bucket list place. It's always been on my bucket list, always been on my vision boards. And the fact that I was able to go 40 meters deep and dive through these stalactites, passing by sharks, is just mind-blowing. Diving was definitely the skill of the year. Like I said, the Great Blue Hole, I've done the cenotes in Mexico, which were also such a surreal experience and completely different from any dives I've done in saltwater or in the ocean. Having a social atmosphere as a solo female traveler, meeting new people is also very important for me. The best countries for this are definitely Mexico and Thailand because there is always a party around the corner. So yeah, if you're a first-time solo traveler, definitely look into Mexico and Thailand. When it comes to really creating a community and people you end up spending a longer amount of time with, I found that that was the case in El Salvador. I had such a lovely crew there that I met in El Tunco, and then we ended up doing a whole trip around the country. It was so much fun. But also Vietnam, because a lot of people are traveling north to south and you kind of end up traveling together, even if you're like one day apart, which I love being one day ahead because it meant that I could meet new people and then enjoy time with people I already knew the next day. The least social country, however, was Costa Rica. We didn't go to the Pacific coast, which is probably more social and there's more of a backpacker vibe, but we did not find this in the rest of the country. Aside from meeting other travelers, I also love meeting the locals and really integrating in the culture. It really makes me connect to a country a lot more, which is what I was missing in Vietnam. I felt like there was a lot of culture, but there just wasn't a connection between the travelers and the culture, at least not in an authentic way. I did, however, experience this in Guatemala. Guatemala has the biggest indigenous population in Central America, and it is very noticeable pretty much anywhere. To the point where people in Semuc Champey, for example, they didn't even know Spanish. They went straight from their indigenous language to English to be able to communicate with the tourists, which was very impressive. You can do a Spanish course at Lake Atitlan, which I heard is absolutely incredible. You stay with a local family as well, and I didn't do this because my Spanish is already fluent, but it sounds like such an amazing experience. And nearby is also the biggest indigenous artisan market in all of Central America, which is definitely worth checking out. Also, Antigua, the old capital of the country, is just such a beautiful place and had such a beautiful vibe. Lots of culture all around. Guatemala definitely scored points when it came to culture. And so did Laos. In Luang Prabang, there were so many social initiatives showcasing the culture of the country, and it was such a beautiful place. Just walking through the streets, it was bursting with culture. Mexico and Thailand, I'm going to mention again because they are so easy to get in touch with the locals, and yeah, I just love the culture of both countries so much. Right, there are a few countries that I haven't really talked about yet, because if you've been counting, I didn't reach 18 countries yet. I did visit quite a few countries with friends and family during the months that I have spent at home. Obviously, I spent some time in Belgium. I did a trip to the Belgian Ardennes, which is where all the forests are in the country. I went there with a previous group that I guided in Lapland as some kind of reunion. I went there with my family. We were also in Luxembourg and we did a day trip to Monschau in Germany. That was definitely the most sentimental trip for me personally because I got to share it with the entire family on my dad's side. I also went on a short trip to the Netherlands with my girlfriends and we only spent a few days there. We went to Amsterdam. We had a beautiful accommodation along one of the many canals. Obviously, I went to Greece again with the family, as I said, so always love our Greece trips so much. And just now, which you'll probably have seen in last week's video, I also did a day trip to England again. That is it for this very extended look back on 2023. Who knows what 2024 has in store for me? I have some ideas. I'm still not entirely sure. But if what I'm thinking about now becomes a reality, it'll be pretty epic. And if you don't want to miss any of it, then definitely subscribe and hit the notification bell. Give this video a like if you liked it. And then I hope to see you in the next videos. Bye!